the White House announcing President Trump is briefed on a border security strategy that includes mobilization of the National Guard. That's troops on the border. This coming after the president announced he will be sending the U.S. military to secure the border with Mexico until his long-promised wall is finished.
I told Mexico, and I respect what they did, I said, look, your laws are very powerful. Your laws are very strong. We have very bad laws for our border. And we are going to be doing some things. I've been speaking with General Mattis. We're going to be doing things militarily. Until we can have a wall and proper security, we're going to be guarding our border with the military. That's a big step.
It is a big step. And Boris Sanchez is out front at the White House. I mean, Boris, the president's comments pretty incredible. We're going to be putting military on the border, and that's a big step. He's not trying to minimize it, and it isn't something to minimize. We understand the Pentagon was caught off guard by this, never mind Mexico, which also was caught off guard. This is not a militarized border. What else are we now hearing from the White House?
That's right, Aaron. It seems like there was some missed communication between the White House and officials that CNN has heard from at the Pentagon. Sarah Sanders, the press secretary, confirming this evening that last week the president received a briefing on immigration, what he's labeled an immigration crisis, and that he directed his aides to come up with a vigorous strategy to fighting that crisis. Lo and behold, today, apparently, the president was briefed on the potential option of using the National Guard to protect the border. And that's what he meant by saying that we would protect the border with the military, something that he says he previously discussed with the Secretary of Defense, James Mattis. We should point out the White House then went further and said that the president is committed, though, to getting something done on immigration law through Congress, which is part of the reason we've seen the president take this hardline stance now for consecutive days, calling America's immigration laws weak, and then going as far as to say that Mexico has to do more and that he would pull out of NAFTA if they didn't. We should also note today the president said that he spoke with Mexico yesterday about immigration. We asked the White House to clarify that. They told us that, in fact, the president had not spoken to Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, but rather that his public messages about immigration got across to the Mexican government. And that's part of the reason, according to the president, we've seen this caravan of immigrants disband. Difficult to fact check that, knowing that part of this group of people was actually a political demonstration and that only few of them actually had the intention of getting to the United States and then seeking asylum, Aaron.
All right, Boris, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's go now to the former Assistant Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security, Juliette Kayyem, is back, along with former advisor to the Trump campaign, Steve Cortes. So, Juliette, look, the president, let's give him credit for the fact that he knows that what he's doing is a big deal. Pentagon didn't seem to know about it. Mexico didn't seem to know about it. But he is saying, I'm going to do something militarily, and that's a big step. And he's right. But I want to have you put it in context. We're talking about troops going onto the southern border. President Obama put 1,200 National Guard troops there while he was president. President Bush sent 6,000 troops down there while he was president. Is there a difference between then and now?
Oh, yes. And so I think the president was confused and doesn't know the difference between the National Guard Bureau, which serves under governors, and, of course, active military, which serves under him as commander in chief. And the difference is a legal difference. A lot of people are hearing this word posse comitatus, which essentially says that we cannot use the active military for law enforcement purposes. It is a legacy of the Civil War, and it's what makes us a democracy, that a president cannot, deploy the troops and say, you're now the local police. And so the difference is important because National Guard members, as many of us who've worked with them, I oversaw the National Guard here in Massachusetts, they went down to the border to support training and logistics. That's what they do really well. And active military, first of all, it's unlawful. But secondly, what are they doing there? Are they allowed to shoot to kill? How many are you sending? So the best thing to come out of today is what a lot of us suspected early on, which is the president was confused. That's the best way of putting it, and doesn't know the difference between active troops and the National Guard Bureau.
I mean, what do you say, Steve? I mean, obviously active troops, and he's saying we're going to militarize the border. I mean, we are, just to state the obvious, not at war with Mexico. It is an ally of the United States. This is not a militarized border.
Right. Right. Well, it's an ally that's not acting like an ally right now. A neighbor who's not acting very neighborly by helping and ushering a caravan of would-be illegal immigrants to our border. So they're not acting like an ally. But, Juliette, to your point, the president is not confused. And you know who else is not confused are the American people, because he ran unambiguously on this issue in 2016. It was perhaps the pillar of his campaign in 2016 that we are going to build a wall, that we are going to get control of our southern border. And you talk about it, our troops not being law enforcement officers. You're correct. They're for national security. We have a national security issue on our porous and open southern border. It doesn't serve the economic or national security of the United States, and the people spoke loudly in 2016 that they want that reality recognized and rectified. It's time we defend our borders. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country.
I just want to make something clear here, because I don't know, why people voted for Trump or why they didn't vote for Trump. That's irrelevant. We're dealing with rules and policy. No, but there's rules and policy here. So here's the deal. Steve, are you actually saying that the national security imperative means that the military will be deployed at the Mexican border and serve in Mexico or the United States? Because if you're saying it's the United States, it's unlawful. And if you're saying it's Mexico, that's what I call a war. So the fact I am giving the president an out here, right? He was confused because the seriousness of what he said earlier today that got everyone worked up is because most people know the distinction between the use of the National Guard to support border control and active military going into Mexico. And if you don't, that's a little scary.
Steve.
What I'm saying, and I think the president would concur with me on this, is that there has been a soft invasion of the United States that we've tolerated
You're
for decades.
You're going to use the word invasion?
It's not, yes. It's not an army invading, but it's a soft invasion of illegal immigration. And we have tolerated it. And we've largely tolerated it because a lot of interest in the United States, big business, the Democratic Party, a lot of interest in the United States like this soft invasion. You know who doesn't like it? Middle-class Americans who have their economic and national security threatened by that very force.
Steve,
and they have demanded via the ballot box
the man who used to run the Southern Command,
we get
who dealt with all this, was John Kelly.
Okay,
hold on. John Kelly, who is currently the president's chief of staff, and I'm curious as to how much longer that will be given what I'm about to play for you. This issue has come up before of Trump wanting to militarize the border and using words, he doesn't use invasion, but words like that, Steve. John Kelly came out very quickly and corrected the president last time this happened. Okay, let me just play the president, what he said, and John Kelly. Here it is.
We're getting really bad dudes out of this country, and at a rate that nobody's ever seen before. And they're the bad ones. And it's a military operation.
And again, listen to this. No, repeat, no use of military force in immigration operations. None.
So, Steve, what do you say? Is the president just overruling John Kelly and John Kelly's basically out, or does the president just not get it?
Well, no, I don't think it has to be either. I don't think John Kelly's out. But the president has been, look, again, he was given this mandate. He didn't assume this mandate. He was given it by the American people, and he was crystal clear on this issue. Also, I think let's ignore, or let's
Steve, we're
not
talking
ignore
about a military operation. Don't make this about the wall
Why?
or whether he's securing it. Right? We're talking about putting troops on the southern border. That's what we're talking about.
Aaron, I think most Americans would be astounded to know that we don't already have troops guarding our southern border. And here's the other issue that we should pay attention to. People are fleeing these countries because these countries, unfortunately, are basket cases. And my own father fled Latin America, fled a corrupt, violent place to come to the United States. So I get it and I empathize. He also did it legally. I have great empathy, and I want immigration. It has to be controlled. It's not a caravan who shows up when they want, where they want, to come into our homes, any more than we would do that in our own houses.
Very quickly,
who would tolerate that in our
chance to
house,
respond before we
much
go.
less in our country?
Yeah, I just think, Steve, the Pentagon gave you an out today. They corrected what the president got wrong. Their active military will not be utilized to invade Mexico. And the National Guard will continue to support border enforcement efforts. We have a couple 100,000 or lots of Border Patrol agents. So let's just clean up on aisle 6, and you should accept it, Steve. You should accept it at this stage.
All right. Thank you both very much.